Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. All backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.
I'm Ashley.
And I'm Colin.
Hey everybody, welcome to the big crossover. We are doing the 97 sessions. We have great nerd guests talking to us about X-Men 97, the nostalgia cartoon that we are loving / hating / crying about / obsessed with / don't want to be obsessed with.
Let's go. Look at us. Here we are, back again. Glorious. Where are we, Ashley? Speak up. This is your part.
Excuse me. Listen, leave me the fuck alone. Do you understand me?
I'd love to. I would love to. If these assholes haven't been coming into my DMs telling us to come back, you wouldn't hear from me again. I've had enough of that.
Oh, sit down. Let me do the show. For those of us who are here to talk about X-Men, yeah, let's do that. Welcome to another season of X-Men 97. It's me, it's and we are doing the 97 sessions. We are going to be here to talk to you about the cartoon that we all love, hate, sometimes feel indifferent about, but it's all very X-themed.
Shall we hold hands and start with the ceremonial chant?
Don't clap on the 1 and 3 around me, please.
I can't deal with this. Jackson, please just say something so he stops speaking.
It only took me like 3 minutes of being on the podcast to destroy this podcast. I've already driven you two against each other. Being the Conqueror shit. I'm really proud of it.
Last season, someone told us that it feels like they walked into the worst therapy session for a couple that they've ever heard in their life. And I was like, that's true, except I would never be with that man. How dare you?
I feel like that properly describes my appearance on Hex of Words, which was just genuinely me doing my therapy in public. I was like, I'm coming on to X-Men and I'm nervous. It's completely how it goes. No, I'm really happy to be here with you. This is awesome.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast with us. Jackson Lanzing, comic book writer, Eisner nominee. You might know him from the Hivemind, Jackson Lanzing, and Colin Kelly. Did I get that right? I got that right.
Yeah,
I get names very wrong. Thank you very much. I'm very proud of myself. I just want you to know that my favorite thing to do is to fuck up a name. So I got that one in one go. So yes, me. You might be familiar with Jackson from their Eisner nominated writing for Star Trek, or you might know them, your X fans, from their most recent run, NYX. Non-controversially, I will say, known by me as the best comic book to come out of From the Ashes period. But let's not dwell on that too much. And as always, I'm here with Ashley Alleyne once again to talk about, like he said, X-Men 97. We're very excited. Let's start at the very beginning. X-Men! Jackson, tell me, what is X-Men to you? What is X-Men 97 to you exactly?
So these two are two very different things, because when I was growing up, I actually wasn't allowed to read or watch the X-Men. So my parents had a rule. I wasn't allowed to read or watch anything as a kid that had people hurting other people. So violence was out of the question. I could do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, was totally fine. X-Men looked like people, and so I wasn't allowed. So X-Men became this kind of fun contraband that I had to find in my own way. And eventually when I started reading comics, it was all X-Men books. I got on X-Men early, and X-Men became a really core part of my upcoming into comics. And then of course, when I ended up at Marvel, it became the brass ring, the thing we were trying to get to for forever. And then when we got to NYX, it became this really beautiful actual year of my life, year plus, where I got to spend with most of my favorite Academy X kids. So it was a grand time. But X-Men 97 has been really cool because I specifically never got to watch the old animated series. It was never on my list. I never got to go back and watch it. It it passed me by, completely missed me. While most of my best friends, my writing partner, Colin Kelly, all huge fans of X-Men 97, or of the original animated series. So when X-Men 97 finally came out, I got to start partaking with everybody else, to watch all of last season and like experience that version of the X-Men fan community for the first time, which was a real joy. And now I'm dug in. So I guess to me, X-Men weirdly is always about that sort of liberation from the expectations of other people. My parents had expectations of what I was allowed to watch and read. X-Men became my rebellion. I think that's a big part of it for me, which fits, I think, very thematically with the point of X-Men, which is to be oneself in the face of a cavalcade of forces telling you to be anything else.
Thank you. That was a very touching story, and I'm really glad that you shared that with us, and I love that this is a space where you can be authentic. The question that is pressing on my mind is the distinction between Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the X-Men, because, okay, just taking at face value, they are both about a group of mutants who are fighting a forever war on behalf of their adopted father against their adopted father's boyfriend, who is obsessed with metal. So thematically, it feels like the same show. And the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are far more mutated.
I genuinely think that's why it worked. I think because that is the only distinction that my parents cared about, which was, do they look like people or do they look like turtles? That was it. That's as far as they went. You're right. By the time I got to X-Men, I had already gotten the story from Turtles, and then I was just getting to extend it outwards this way. But you're right. Like, the distinction is shockingly limited, but it really did come down to just an aesthetic distinction. My parents were just like, those look like people, and that's going to teach my son to punch somebody. That's a turtle. That's going to teach my son something about turtles. I don't know, man. I'm not saying it was good logic. And to this day, bless her heart, my mom like loves comics. She reads comics. She reads all of our stuff, and she will likely be listening to this. She heard me tell this story a lot over the course of the year we were doing NYX and Giant Size. And eventually she did call me and was like, that was a silly rule, huh? Come on. It was. I shouldn't have done that. I was like, yeah, no, we all make mistakes.
That's really sweet. The fact that she took it back.
I think at the time, she just didn't want me to grow up she didn't want me to be getting in fights on the playground. Again, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles didn't stop this. But whatever. I think that was the problem. I do think it is wild, though, that they are both about the kids of an old professor fighting his boyfriend who's obsessed with metal. I never thought about that.
There's also that thing about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles where didn't Daredevil accidentally cause them as well?
Yes. They were basically a Daredevil, like, riff. Everything in the first book is all referential to Daredevil, except for Splinter and Shredder, who now are canonically just alt universe Xavier and Magneto, for sure. Yeah.
That is so sweet, because often when people say that, it's because of the fundamentalist Christian thing. Usually when people are like, I wasn't allowed to watch X-Men, it was like because it was witchery or wizardry, and like your parents being like, so they kill a lot.
Yeah. I just don't want my son learning to punch. It's like she saw that moment. There's a bit at the beginning of episode 2 of this season when Wolverine gets on top of or is it one? Wolverine gets on top of the Sentinel. That's those of you who can't see me, I'm doing the Wolverine stabbing thing. And I think she saw shit like that and was like, I don't want him stabbing people with knives. It's like, all right, that's not what's going to happen here, but I appreciate the thought. And then as a young kid, I had to watch I had to watch stuff for adults, because so much of Git's content, especially when I was young, was action figures smashing up against each other. They were selling us Transformers, they were selling us G.I. Joe, they were selling us X-Men, like all that was what was happening. So I had to watch a lot of PBS and documentaries and shit. And now you know why I'm me, right? That makes a Jackson, it turns out.
But that's good. Look, it's always good to have somebody looking out for your prefrontal cortex.
I don't know. I'm resistant towards that. I had that in reverse, where my mother didn't want me to watch anime because she thought they were too sexual. But she didn't care if I watched people blow things up. She didn't mind if I watched Pokemon, which is pets fighting each other. I was like, I think there are bigger problems here to address.
Honestly, I think that is valid. Like,
do you?
Let's bear in mind that our parents in that generation has a lot of problems, right? But in some ways, they were mentally well. And if you take somebody who's mentally sound and you play them 15 minutes of One Piece, they're going to go, the people who made this are not well. The in this is very unwell. And I don't want to expose my child to this.
X-Men! To get us back on track on the X-Men, that is. What was your experience watching the first season then?
I loved it. I think what was really exciting for me was that it was also during that period that I was steeped deep in X-Men lore while doing both NYX and Giant Size and operating across From the Ashes line, because we had a whole Discord of all the writers and we were all communicating during that, especially during the early days of that. series. So we were all very plugged into X-Men. There was a constant amount of research that was happening on my side. I'm a big research nerd, so that's part of the way that Colin and I work is whenever we start a new Marvel or DC project that has a ton of history, I go back and I read the whole publishing history. Like, I read as much as I humanly can. And X-Men's impossible, man. Like, good luck, right? Like, it'll take you a lifetime. But I went back and I read an enormous amount of it. So a lot of it was just living in my head in a chaotic jumble of moments and ideas and thoughts that I was able to pull from as I needed to as we were going through the series. But watching X-Men 97 was like watching somebody else take that string out of my ear and carefully order it into a narrative that was like, okay, this isn't the books, but it's taking a lot of great moments from across that series and really aligning them beautifully. I loved the characterization. Initially, I was annoyed by it, but I ended up being really into the characterization of Jubilee and Sunspot's relationship and how Bobby, who's always been a character I've really loved. He was a last minute cut from NYX. He was like a big part of the book up until almost the last minute because I was trying to force him in there. I love that character. He had such a great arc over the course of that first series that I thought was also just great for making Jubilee, reflecting Jubilee's X-Men animated series experience. And because now I've gotten to revisit some of that and show what she's learned, show how she can bring him into mutantdom. Like, I just thought that was a really beautiful dynamic. And then that Genosha episode, like that arc along still, to me, I think is the reason for the season. You know what I mean? Like once they did that, it was like your show now has a real reason to exist. Like you took the step that X-Men, I'm trying to think if they've ever taken that step in adaptation, like film or television ever before, of being like, not only are we going to really talk about Homeland, but we're going to show the destruction of it. And we're going to explain how that bigotry becomes active violence, how bigotry becomes war, how supposedly like terrifying micronations are actually just like slaughter targets for Western fear. Like all these things that X-Men to me is like one of the only Marvel films that'll really think about that. Here they were adapting it writ large and killing characters while they were at it, taking Gambit off table, who was their fan favorite. Like all these things over and over again that show did that I just thought were brave and daring and cool and interesting. And I was really impressed, very impressed with X-Men 97 season 1.
Yeah. Ashley, I do agree in that one thing that really stuck with me that last season is like how bold it was. And I didn't like it personally all the time. I have a lot of issues with some of the choices, but I think that is because like you, I'm a lore whore and I love like all the minutia. And there's that little toxic fan aspect to me when it goes slightly left. I'm just like, no, that's wrong. Bring it back to the way as I know it. Let's peek in. But I did end up appreciating the boldness because ultimately, especially with an adaptation, when something does something that's significantly different but still works with the storylines, I appreciate it. I also agree with you in the fact that I think of it as a kind of a demerit, but also a plus. This is one of the few shows that opened up those kinds of conversations. It put the topic on screen. My demerit is that I wish they discussed those aspects more on the show itself. Like that was part of the plot line. Of course. But I do think it's significant, the fact that that is also a rarity when we have even approaching the topic on screen and depicting it. It's complicated for me. But what I did come out of that first season is really enjoying it, like enjoying the experience of it.
Yeah, I don't have a coherent thought about that just yet, but I remember watching it and feeling like it was the best it could ever get. It has to scratch the itch of nostalgia heads who want everything exactly as they read it in the comic. It has to give people who haven't come back to this in 25 years an easy enough story that they can understand and condense 5 years worth of content into something that's possible in 10 episodes, 12 episodes. And so I thought it did a really fucking difficult job really well. You know what I mean? I wouldn't, if you went, hey, we want you to make a fucking nostalgia show about X-Men 97.
Aha, you fell into our trap.
You've never seen somebody run that fast. There's no fucking way. So it was incredible, but sometimes it felt abridged.
Oh, it absolutely.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But that's one of the double-edged swords of it. You want to give everyone a bit that they can go, I remember that, but doing that means you can never dive into anything.
So what you're describing is exactly my experience watching, especially episode 3 and 4 of this season, where, and again, I'm getting ahead of it, but like partially that's because I am the author of some of that source material. That Kang the Conqueror stuff, that Kang Apocalypse plot is a thing I wrote. I spent time on that. I know that. I went back and read everything that had been done with those characters. I built a thing out of that I liked that even in and of itself was an abridged iteration in the middle of my Kang story because I only had 5 issues to do what I needed to do there, right? But every time I see Rama Tut and Apocalypse on screen, my brain is great. Let me sit in this. This is an incredible dynamic. This is like one of my favorite dynamics. This weird reflection of colonialism that's coming in on ancient Egypt. Then on top of that, you have Apocalypse, who's going to be a representation of all the things that stepped on, regardless of Ramatut. There's a deep amount of like political and social pillaring that just sits underneath those characters. And then I don't think they met.
No, they don't really interact.
I don't think they shared a scene that. And to me, that's the part where the fan in me, which is really just the creator in me, goes, oh, but that's the fun part. That's the thing I want to see. That's the dynamic that I'm looking to see explored. And the show, unless it's going to spend a season on that, it doesn't have time for that. It's an X-Men show. Kang is here as a footnote. Don't worry about that, right? I think you're always going to get that with the things that you're a fan of, especially with something with X-Men, because there's so much of it. What are you going to do? God help you if you're a big war fan. You got 3 seconds of that guy before they shot him against a palm tree.
On that note, he had it coming, to be fair.
He had it coming. He only had himself to blame.
If you've been there.
And if you've seen it,
I bet you would have done the same. All right.
And I would. Non, thank you for getting the shit done. Jubilee wanted to stretch her long neck, talking about why would we?
She didn't give enough time. That's what I love. Thank God for Psylocke. Honestly, truly, thank God for Psylocke.
Yeah. She was like, you need to sit in the chair and talk to the lady, right? Because that shit's really done.
Devin, she's just Conan, right?
Allegedly.
You can see they are not trying to get involved, and I respect it.
I think the answer is like, is she Betsy? Is she Quanon? Yes. The answer is yes. The answer is yes. She's Psylocke. It's fine.
If you like it, I love it. Okay, all right. So, should we talk loosely about episode 1?
Jackson, could you please give us your recap then for episode 1 of season 2?
Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. All backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.